Watching 12 News at 6.
Tonight, the fight continues for people in Dickinson County, many for and against a proposed wind farm in that area. The last chance for the company to present its plan to those who live there.
Digital anchor Keith Grant joining us now with what will happen at tonight's meeting.
Mike, Rachel, after tonight's presentation, the Dickinson County Planning Commission will likely vote on the wind farm. First, let's take a look at the details of the proposed wind farm. Construction will last roughly 9 months and will include 75 wind turbines. So far, the company behind the project says it has secured 53,000 acres of lease so far. Now, at last week's meeting, we talked with many people who are concerned about the visual change the turbines would have. The company suggests they talk with people in Marion County since there's already a wind farm there. We also heard from one person who is concerned about the financial stability of the company.
We have bonding for decommissioning, which means the money is there. It's analyzed with the county every 5 years is what's proposed for this project, so that dollar amount always exists no matter if the company does go belly up or if we sell to another operator. Those obligations and that pot of money is still there.
Now, if the Planning Commission votes in favor of the wind farm tonight, it will then go to the County Commission for the final decision.
Now, your